Hey, this is Leisha from Caught by Design. Today's tutorial is going to be a little bit more involved than the tutorials I usually post. I had a reader who asked me if it was possible to design a template for Moravian stars in Silhouette Studio. And to be quite honest, I did not know what a Moravian star was, but I did some research on it and it's pretty fascinating. So if you don't know what one is, I encourage you to look it up and see. Basically, it's a three-dimensional star which has 18 large points and 8 small points. And it's similar to a Bethlehem star, but it has more points than the Bethlehem star. And a template for a Moravian star looks something similar to this. You'll have the larger points and then the smaller points. And I have seen different templates. Some of them have little tabs that are different or whatever. But this is what I'm basing my tutorial on. And I'm going to show you how to create the smaller template. And then you can just increase the number of points because the number of sides, because the smaller template or the smaller points on the star are a three-sided triangle, whereas the larger points are made of a four-sided triangle. So this particular template has an overlap. So this side right here would overlap with this side when you're gluing it. And on the larger points, this side right here would overlap with this side. Now, I'm going to be the first to tell you that I am not a geometry whiz. So I'm going to show you just based on some measurements that I came up with. Of course, if you're designing your own Moravian star, your measurements will probably be different and maybe more exact, but this will at least get you started and you'll see how to do it in Silhouette Studio. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up my page where it shows the grid. Now you can just type G on your keyboard and that will give you a grid, but I want to show you in the page setup panel how to enter some grid settings. So I want to show the grid. So I'm going to check that box right there. And I want my spacing to be 4 divisions to every 1 inch. That's going to help me be exact with my center of rotation and how and the size of my rectangle and my triangle and my tabs that I'm going to draw. Now I have changed the color of my grid to blue. You could do any of these colors here or even put a custom color. I'm just doing that so we'll be able to see the lines a little bit better when we draw the shapes. And when I draw these first 2 sections, I'm going to use the snap to grid function. What that does is when I draw a shape, the edges are going to snap to each one of these little grid lines however I move it. I can't, for instance, move something into this area. It's going to snap to one of these grid marks. And you'll see why that's helpful in just a few minutes. So if you look at this, this is basically a triangle with a little tab, and then the triangle is replicated. And if you were to say, put a little push pin in like this spot right here, like draw this triangle and then just, put another one right on top and maybe use a little thumbtack to hold them down. You could take one of those and just rotate it over and rotate it again and rotate it again. Looks like this one, he's even showing you the degrees, which are 21 degrees on this template. Looks like 16, 15, 16, 15, and 16. With this one, like I said, I'm not going to get that exact, but once you see the basic steps to doing this, you'll be able to create your own. So I'm going to draw an isosceles triangle. An isosceles triangle is a triangle that has two sides that are equal. And so my triangle is going to be 5 inches on the left and the right side and have a base of 2.5 inches. Okay, so to draw this isosceles triangle, we are going to use the Draw a Polygon tool. We can't use the Draw a Regular Polygon tool because a regular polygon has all sides are equal. And we're only going to have 2 sides that are equal. So we're going to choose this Draw a Polygon tool. And I'm just going to go over here right in the center to start mine. Now, let's think about it. I said we were going to draw a triangle that is 5 inches tall, or 5 inches on one side, and 5 inches on the other side, and 2.5 inches at the base. So, if you think about it, we're going to start right here in the middle, the little point at the top of the triangle. So we only want to go over to the left half the distance of the base, or in this case, 1.25 inches. We've set up this grid with 4 divisions per inch, so each one of those squares is 1/4 inch. So if I click here and start drawing, I want to go over 1.25 inches. So this would be 1/4, 1/2, 1 inch, 1.25, and I want to go down 5 inches. So right there, and make sure I'm over. Okay. Then if you let up, you can then go across where here's our middle point. So that would be 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.25, and then click with your mouse and then go up, and those 2 points will act as magnets. Okay? Now I'm going to make this line a little thicker. Let me make it about 1 point, or maybe even 1.25, 1.5. I just want you to be able to see these lines. And I'm going to change this line color to, let's say, let's make it purple. And if you'll look, if I click on here, it shows I've got 5 inch sides, 2.5 across the bottom, and that's what I wanted. Now I've also got to draw that little tab. The tab I'm going to draw is going to be 1/4 inch. You may want yours bigger, whatever. I'm going to draw mine 1/4 inch. So I need to draw a rectangle for this. And I want it to be 1/4 inch tall and 2.5 inches wide. Okay, let's change that color to something, let's say green. And again, I will make the line a little thicker so you can see it. All right. Now, something I always do when I am drawing or working with text or anything is I make a copy and move it over to the gray holding area so that I, don't lose it. And so I'm just going to select both of these, hit Command D on my keyboard to duplicate, and move those over. Now, again, I keep going back to this right here, but if you'll look at it, we've got these dotted lines here because those are going to be score lines, and then these solid ones are going to be cut lines. It may be kind of hard to tell from this drawing, but you want to fold along here and along here, but you're going to cut along here. So we need to modify this rectangle just a bit, because we're not going to need a cut line at the top of it. So we're going to do some point editing, okay? So if I double click on this, I'll enter point editing mode. You'll see now I have these little gray dots here. Those are the nodes, and my point editing panel is opened up. And I'm going to delete this line at the top. The easiest way to do this is to click on that top line, which will add another point, and do what's called breaking the path. That way you've broken the path of that line where that node is, and you can manipulate those like that. Okay, so I'm just going to click on this one and delete that point, and click on this one and delete that point. Now I also want these tabs to angle in at the bottom. We don't want it to be a square tab, we want it to have an angle to it. So I'm going to double click again to enter point editing mode and select this point right here, and then I'm just going to use my arrow key, and one touch of my arrow key moves it over 1/4 of an inch, because that's, you know, set up in my snap to grid. Same thing here. I'm going to click down, and I'm going to use my left arrow key, hit it one time, and now I have that tab drawn. Okay, so when we go up there, that will just line up nice and neat. And again, I've still got that snap to grid on, so it's moving right along that 1/4 inch grid. Now, we're going to have to take this shape, modify it some to get some dotted lines, and then we're also going to have to rotate it. And you're going to need to know how much to rotate it so that, let me just show you like this. If we make a copy, that copy, let me take off snap to grid to show you this. Okay, we want that when it's rotated to meet up just exactly. And we want everything to be nice and neat. Well, if you already have your measurements, that's great. If you are a geometry whiz, even better, you can figure your own. But like I said, I'm not. So I want to know what the degree measurement is here, so that I know how much I need to rotate, because basically I need to rotate the same degree measurement or pretty close. So I'm going to use a little tool or a little trick in Silhouette Studio, which is the Draw an Arc tool. And that's going to help me figure out exactly what the degree angle is. So up there in those line tools, where here we drew the polygon, here we're going to select the Draw an Arc. And I want to put this arc, I want to start it right here. I want to come down just a little ways. It doesn't matter because the angle is going to be the angle no matter how far down you go. And I'm going to swing it over. So I'm going to let up and then swing it over to that side. And if you'll look, I have this measurement now. It's 28 degrees, kind of small to see there, but it's 28 degrees. And it might be a little more, a little less, but that's going to be pretty close. And that's going to give us our starting point when we go to rotate. So I'm going to move that over here to the gray holding area. Let the computer catch up with me for just a second. Oh, come on, let's move. All right. And I also want to make another copy of this base tab since we modified it to be at an angle. So again, I'm going to do a Control or a Command D, be Control on a PC, Command on a Mac, and I'm going to move that over to here. Let's go back and reference this drawing again. Now, if you think about it, if I draw triangles here with 3 sides and then I rotate it, I'm going to have an overlapping side here. And I don't really want that. That's just more for me to have to get rid of later, or, unnecessary fold marks. So really what I have is a side here and the fold line here that when I rotate gives me another side here and a fold line. Rotate again, side here, and a fold line. So basically, I don't need this side anymore. Okay? So we're going to get rid of that side. And to do that, we're going to do just what we did with the bottom section. I'm going to click on it, or double click on it, so that I can enter point editing mode. Let me zoom in so you can see. We've got those gray nodes there, and I'm just going to click anywhere on this line, and I'm going to break that path. Then I can move that out and click on this one, the line that turns red, I will delete. Click on this one. I want to make sure that that's the point I have selected. See, right now it's that one up there, and that's not what I want. I want this one. Let's delete that one. Let's delete this one. Sometimes it can be a little persnickety, but see, if I delete this one, okay, well, I did it right, even though that one was red up there. So we're good. So we have deleted that side. So we just have this and this. I'm going to go one step further. And that step is going to be to break the path between this and this side and this bottom. And the reason is we're going to change this to a score line. And sometimes when you change those score lines, you'll have this little area where it meets right here, and you'll end up actually tearing your paper. So the easiest way to avoid this is to double click on that, to break the path, and then instead of like moving it out and deleting it this time, I'm just going to click on it, and you'll see that the line I'm working with has now highlighted. And I'm just going to use my arrow key to move that point over just a little bit there. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to move it over just a little bit. So that when I go to make those dotted lines, I don't get overlap and tear my paper. And I think it'd be a good idea to do the same thing here. If you'll use your arrow keys, you'll be less likely to pick up that little red dot there. Because what it's wanting to do is act like a magnet there. And we really just want it just a tiny, tiny bit above. Just tiny, like that. Okay? So we're going to have a score line here, a score line here, and a cut line here. Now let's group all of that together. And what I want you to look at is this right here. Sometimes that pops up on Silhouette Studio and you think, what is this crosshairs? And it's very annoying, but in this case, it's going to be the exact tool that you need, or the exact mark. This is the center of rotation symbol. And what that is, just like I showed you earlier here, as if you put a push pin right here and then rotated a copy. Well, right now, that push pin, for lack of a better explanation, is right here. And we need it up here at the very top. So if you'll look, when I move over and hover on top of it, my mouse changes to a crosshair icon. So I'm going to take that and move it all the way up until where it's right at the top of that point of that triangle. And it's really important that you get it right at the top and right at the center. And that's why I wanted to show you this using the grid, because that's the best way to do it. Just get that bullseye there. Okay? Now we've got all of that fixed. We have what's going to be our score line, what's going to be our cut line, and then we want to rotate it. Now, if I were making this, and I need these 4 copies, I'm going to have one here, and then I'm going to rotate 1, 2, 3. Okay? But think about it. As we've drawn, we just have this side, and this, and this, and this. So we don't have this side right here. So to make that easy on me, I'm going to rotate 1 extra copy and then modify it. So let me go over that again. If we have 1 here and we want 3 more, normally we would rotate or replicate 3 copies. But we're going to do an extra copy to get this line right here. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So I'm going to use this as my base and replicate 4 copies at the center of rotation, which is right here. So with all of that selected, my center of rotation moved, I'm going to use the advanced replicate function. That's in your replicate panel right here, and it's the second tab over. That's your advanced replicate. In the advanced replicate, you can specify the number of copies and the rotation of each, the degree of rotation. Now remember, we said we wanted 4 copies, and we measured that arc earlier at 28 degrees. Now it's kind of strange, but you're going to actually have to rotate a negative 28 degrees. But once I've got that in, my 4 copies, my negative 28, I can do replicate, and it may need a little fine tuning, but let's see what happens. How about that? That is pretty darn close. If it wasn't exactly what you needed, then you could adjust it a little bit. You can go in decimal points. You could say negative 27.9 or negative 28.1, whatever works for you. And in fact, if we zoom in on this, you know, it might not be, we're not like exact on there. So let's try, let's do undo. And let's try just a little bit more, like 28.1, and replicate. Now let's look at it and see if that's better. I'm gonna even try it a little more fine-tuned. Not sure. Let's see if you can go 2 decimal points. Looks like you can. I like that. I like that a lot. That's pretty much spot on right there. Now let's do just a little bit more silhouette magic. Remember, we don't need this right here. So right now everything is grouped. The green line is grouped with the purple line, and then there's 4 copies of it. So I'm going to ungroup this, right click, ungroup, just click on that green and delete it. And I should be able, let's see, I'm probably going to have to, I don't want to move that. So let me, I have to break the path on this one again. I'd already broken it, but probably the easiest way is to just break that and move it away. Nope, I don't want to do that. Let's see. Let's, instead of deleting it, we will, with those, that line right there, we'll just delete the point. And we will delete that point. Okay, to where we just have this. One more thing I'm going to do so I can show you is I'm going to change this line color to, oh, let's say pink. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to change this line on this side to pink as well. So to do that, first I have to ungroup it because right now the green is grouped with the purple. And so I'm going to just right click and choose ungroup. And now the purple, the line on the left and the bottom are still considered as one unit. So I have to right click and choose release compound path. And that will make this bottom line separate from the left edge. Let me change that to the hot pink color. Let's see, I'm not sure that's exactly the same pink color. Let me select both of those. I'm going to hold down this, I'm going to click on this line, hold down my shift key and click on this line and just make sure they're exactly the same color. Okay, now I want these lines, the hot pink and the green, to be cut lines, and I want the purple to be score lines or dotted lines. So Silhouette Studio has a selection tool that is select by color. It's under the edit menu. You might not be able to see my menus up here at the top, but I'm going to click on the edit menu and then select by color. When you do that, you can select by either line color or fill color. I want to select by line color, and I'm going to select the purple color. And right now you'll see when I do that, all of this bounding box it's including the green. That's because these were never ungrouped. So let me right click and ungroup those. In fact, I'll just select everything and ungroup it to make sure everything is separate. Okay, now I can select the purple, and I'm going to go to my line style panel and change the line style here. Right now it's a solid line. I'm going to change that to a dotted line. Now you can have them that are, dotted lines very close together or a little further apart, whatever works for your design. You could even draw them as dotted lines rather than, doing the polygon tool. You could actually draw your lines. It's whatever you want to do and whatever works best for you. But I am just going to use the built-in dotted lines. I think, let's see, maybe this one. That might be more of a perforation. Let's just do this one. Okay, so now we have a solid line here, solid line here, cut line here. Now one thing we want to make sure is we do want this cut line to match up with that one right there. We want those to overlap. So I'm just going to kind of do some point editing here. I think I'm going to change all of this back to a smaller line point, because when I made them thicker, they may not, see, they looked like they overlapped, but they didn't. So let's just take this and make sure that it overlaps right there. And you could even take, you'll have to be careful because you don't want to select the wrong lines, but you should be able to take, I'm going to turn this grid off so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, let's go up here, zoom way in, make sure that these overlap, and then select that line and select this one and right click and make it a compound path, and see, now it changed to all the same color. That way you'll know that you'll have a good sharp point there. It still looks like it, you might have an open path, but at least it's closer. You're not filling any shapes with color, and you could, move that and use that little magnet function that we had earlier. What you want to make sure you don't do is accidentally turn the dotted lines into your compound path. You want everything to be nice and neat. So if you want it all to match up, just zoom way in and do some point editing. Take these, select that one. Let's just get out of point editing mode. Select this one, select the green one, right click, make it a compound path. Then if you double click and enter point editing mode, you'll see where they don't connect, and you can just click on that and see how that just acts as a magnet. And I'm going to go around here, change these thicknesses back to 0. Make that a compound path. just make sure all of those are connecting. Just going to select all of these at the same time and change that line thickness back to 0. It does take, you know, a little bit of fine tuning. You could even do these several at one time. I'm selecting this line, this line, this line, right click, make a compound path. Then if I double click on it, I can see where things are not meeting up. If you have those bright red dots, it means you have an open path. And so I'll just fix that. See, I don't have that open path anymore. Just takes zooming in and checking it out. Here, we'll just move that one. Sometimes it just takes a little click of the mouse. And here we've got an open one. Let's click in there. Now let's look at it and see if there's any open paths. You could actually even select it and fill it with color. It won't fill with color if there's an open path. See, that's all filled with color. You could make it, say, a light gray color. Let's move that to the back. And there's all our score lines. Whatever works best for you in all your pattern. And I'm just going to take all of the score lines. Again, I'll go to my edit, select by color, select the purple, and I'm just going to group those together. Sometimes if you change them into a compound path, it'll make a solid line, and we don't want to get rid of our dotted lines. So there you have it. That is a way to make a template for a Moravian star. I hope this has helped you out, and I would love any kind of feedback you have on it. And I just hope you enjoy creating with Silhouette Studio.